Yeah, thanks for everyone joining in.
Mhm.
So let's talk Renfield, right? So Renfield released on what was it, Friday?
Yeah.
I wanted to see it Friday. I never had a chance to. Really, really busy weekend, and I managed to watch it yesterday.
Mhm.
Now, this is a film. Look, I really like Nicolas Cage. I think if you've grown up through a certain era, you appreciate Nicolas Cage on a different level. I think Nicolas Cage is great. He can act. He's an Oscar winner. He is actually a really, really good actor. He's got into some serious financial troubles, but he's a very real bloke. And now, thankfully, he's actually completely debt free. This is the first movie I've seen on his on the big screen in a very long time, and it was an absolute joy. So when I saw that, he was playing Dracula in Renfield, I just saw the behind the scenes pictures that sort of leaked. I was like, yeah, man, this is epic. I thought the costume looked great on the behind the scenes images. It all looked good. And then we learn what Renfield's about a little bit more, get the trailer, and I'm all in. And I go to see it yesterday. And just to tell you a little bit of the story, I wasn't primed. I was primed to enjoy it, but on the day I wasn't primed to enjoy it. So it's about an hour's drive for me to go to the cinema. And so I was driving. I was on the motorway, driving down the motorway, and I hop off. On the junction that I need to hop off at to go to the cinema, and there's a diversion. I'm like, poo. I've timed it. I'm not going to get there in time. I have to hop off the motorway, double back on myself, go, down a ton down the highway to double back on myself to go a different route. And I'm stressing. This is horrendous, blah, blah, blah. But I get there in time. I'm a bit stressed. I'm a bit angry because obviously, why didn't they tell me there was a diversion a little bit sooner? It's literally the only junction you'd pull off at. So it's very strange. Anyway, I get there and I have the absolute best time. Genuinely the absolute best time. Another person who actually has seen this film is Tom. So we'll sort of, drop in and discuss our thoughts on this.
I did.
I love this film. And I appreciate not everyone does, because I know culture has a different opinion. And I'd be keen to see whether Tom shares that opinion. There's a lot of sarcasm in this film. There is a lot of sarcasm. And us Brits, we love our sarcasm. We're big on sarcasm. It's our bread and butter, dry wit sarcasm. We love it. And everything worked for me. I didn't care that it was CGI gore and blood, because there was also visual effects that were so much better than they had any right to be. That opening scene where Nicolas Cage becomes a burnt husk, he's like, that was absolutely exceptionally good. There is so many good things about this film that I just like. The other things, I was like, I don't care. It's schlocky. I couldn't give a toss. We had Ava Sarala, the actress from The Expanse. I can't ever remember her name. She was epic in this. Not someone I was expecting to see. I just love this movie through and through. It was funny. Nicholas Hoult was absolutely fantastic in the role. Did not look like, it didn't look like he was being shown up by anyone. Nicolas Cage doesn't play Nicolas Cage in this. He actually acts. I just loved it. I just thought it was brilliant. Even Awkwafina was good. Liked Awkwafina in this. Didn't care. The whole thing just worked. The only thing that slightly didn't work for me, and I understand why they did it, but it's the cop revenge element. They're using it as a bit of a vehicle, to sort of expand the story outwards a little bit and connect Nicholas Hoult with Awkwafina, and then obviously bring, Dracula out a little bit more. But I just love this film. I had such a good time with it. So, Culture, what did you think?
I thought it was a fine film. I enjoyed the practical effects and the special effects. Once again, you hit the nail on the head. This is better than most anything you've seen recently, especially out of Disney of any brand. I even out of the most recent DC films and stuff, out of Warner Brothers. So, but practical effects were great. I actually tolerated Awkwafina just fine, which I was surprised by, because she can be rather annoying, but she completely dropped the black scent. I thought that Nicolas Cage was very good. I thought that Nicholas Hoult was very good. And absent that, it was an okay film. It was enjoyable. There were humorous things that definitely hit, and I got laughs out of. There were some attempts at humor that didn't hit. And then
give me an example of something that didn't land. Because this would be interesting to see, ladies and gents, whether it's this is the important thing, right? Like, is to figure out what it is that didn't land for certain people to understand whether it aligns with your sense of humor. I think that's important. So what didn't land for you?
Some of the humor that was attempted during the course of the romantic elements in 2 segments in the film, which, not to spoil anything, I think what
you didn't like the flowers? You didn't like the flower thing? I thought that was brilliant.
Okay.
You normally bring flowers when you're giving a witness statement? Yeah, they're for everyone.
And then he hands the balance of them to her. But it was there was like flirty moments that were played off for comedy and things like that, and it was fine. But I mean, the things that genuinely are designed to make you laugh will make you laugh, and that's a good thing. It's not like all of the hit and miss humor you get in Marvel nowadays, right? So like you said, some of the stuff didn't hit for me, didn't land. And again, Nate points out that I'm a merkin. So some of the sarcasm may be just a little too over the top for me or whatnot. But
I don't know. I'm not trying to label, right? For me, all of the sarcasm worked. But my experience working in America, dealing with Americans, sometimes the sarcasm can, the dry wit can.
It doesn't put me off. But then again, I have a European background, so it's a little different. But it's like you said, overall, this was a good film. Great film? No. Good film? Yes. Great performances? At least 2. Good performances, but many. Like I said, and there was some actors in there that I recognized from other things that I enjoyed that I can't remember.
Ben Schwartz was in it.
Ben Schwartz, yeah. And
it was motherfucking Teddy Lobo.
Teddy Lobo. That's so great. But like I said, it's those things. So it's hard to get better than an average rating out of me. So as I did for my review, it's a 3 out of 5 star film for me. It could have been slightly higher. And again, maybe if my mood were slightly different, or I'd seen it at a different time of day, perhaps. But I saw this on a Sunday afternoon and was rather surprised. And this is an important factor. This film's being labeled a flop after only earning domestically 7.7 million here in the States. And I don't know how. The theater I was in was half full. It was more full than it was for Shazam or Dungeons and Dragons. Weird. So, but that was my movie going experience. And like I said, will I see this film again? Sure, when it comes out on streaming.
I would have 100% watched this film again, because the humor wasn't such that it had the air of the surprise for it to land for me. The humor just worked on a day-to-day level, so I could rewatch this and just have a good time with it again and again and again, probably. And I very rarely say that about any movie, because the humor just works. But Tom, you've seen a movie?
I did.
You've seen it?
I did the thing. I gotta say, I'm disappointed.
In what?
I'm disappointed that the movie flopped. I'm disappointed that culture didn't like it more. Because I loved this movie.
You're not going to be a cantankerous.
I fucking loved this movie. Of course, now it needs to be said, I enjoy shit like Morbius because for all the wrong reasons, right? Or maybe for all the right reasons. So to be fair, I get it. This movie is not going to be for everybody. But for me, I had probably the best time I've had in a theater in a long time, as far as just getting in 90 minutes, getting out, enjoying the story. It was funny. It pays loving homage to the Universal Dracula.
Doesn't it? I was really surprised with that.
Yeah, I mean, Nicolas Cage chews the scenery more than he does next in this movie, but he does it so well. And it's like, I know some people are complaining there's not more of him in it. And I'm like, yeah, I totally get it. But at this point, it's 90 minutes. Leave it alone. It's not setting up a sequel. It's technically a tangential sequel to Dracula, but outside of that, it's not some IP mess that we've been dealing with all this, comic book movies and Star Wars and all that kind of stuff. It's not a part 10 of something. It's a simple, straightforward story. And funnily enough, I think that maybe, and I don't know if you guys will agree with me or not, I wonder if they didn't screw themselves by not pulling a Megan with this. And what I mean is, maybe, just maybe, if they would have made it PG-13 and then just released an unrated version later, because outside of the gore factor, there's not too much in the movie outside of the scariness and the gore that really constitute it being rated R if you took out some of the F words and stuff, right?
Yeah,
Because
you're probably right there.
it's funny because walking out of the theater, I looked over and this guy was saying, man, I wished I'd have known that was R-rated. I'm like, oh, you didn't know it was R-rated? And I didn't look until I see, he's got his kid with him. I'm like, oh, shit. And his kid's like 8, 9 years old or what. He's like, yeah, he's like, I got my kid with me. I didn't know it was rated R. I'm like, oh, yeah, it's rated R. It's like, well, it could have been worse, though, right? Like, so I was looking at it from that perspective. The kid acted like he had a great time, obviously. You know, I'm sure he knows he wasn't supposed to see it in the first place, something like that. But no, I mean, I wonder if that would have helped the box office. But the other problem is they went and brought it out amongst 2 or 3 other horror films.
Weird.
Yeah,
like, why would you do that?
It was a deluge of horror, and we have another one coming up.
Yeah, especially the Russell Crowe one. Everybody knew that about that one. So like, I wish they had found a better way to market it, because I don't think the trailers are mismarketing the movie at all. Like the trailers pretty much give you what the movie is. Now I've seen some people complain about the bug eating thing, and I'm like, look, you're looking way too politically into it. I get it. I understand why you would have that reaction, but that is part of the original character.
What? No, sorry. There's people are thinking that's political. How?
Yes.
Because it eats the bugs house, dude.
Yeah, but no, but it's core. That's what.
Sure. But again, people will look at that and they're going to see politics in it. Again, people are looking for ghosts now, or they're reacting to ghosts, things that are in.
And I understand, but again, I can reassure you that that's not part of the game. Same thing with, there was people who were worried about watching, you know, Renfield and Dracula being cucked. I'm like, they don't nerf Dracula in any way. He is the villain of the piece, clearly. And Renfield, the whole story is about him becoming a man, right?
Yes.
And I'm kind of with you, Nate. Like, there's only 2 gripes I had with the film, and one of them had to do with Awkwafina, but not with her character. It just had to do with a moment that happens in the movie, and you're kind of like, why did they do that? But if they didn't do that, I guess it would have added another 10 minutes to the movie, so fuck it. I'm going to just let that one slide. The other one has to do with the history of the character Renfield, and I'm like, why did they add that to his character? Because that is not part of the original story.
You talking about the backstory of the lawyer,
so not
his
to
wife,
get
his family,
because he didn't. He was supposed to be getting married in Dracula. He wasn't married yet. They didn't have no kids. Like, that was the whole point. So that, but I might be able to let that one slide, because this movie kind of plays it like the universal Dracula exists. Like, everybody knows who Dracula is, right? So it's like, okay, so maybe that's the way it is the universal Dracula film is, quote unquote, the movie version of these 2 real guys. So I'm like, okay, I can accept that. And they just left out the fact that he had the kid and wife. But like, to me, I'm still like, I don't know if you needed that necessarily, because it doesn't really go anywhere. Like, they don't really do anything with it necessarily.
Well, I'll say this. I think that it may have gone somewhere. It's an hour and a half, isn't it?
Yeah.
Think about if this movie was, say, 20 minutes longer. Maybe it did go somewhere. Maybe it's been edited out. I don't know.
You want to know what I thought it was going to be, Nate? I thought he was going to find out that what's his face's mom, the chick who's really running the whole
right.
That was going to be his great granddaughter, his great great granddaughter, whatever it would factor out math wise.
Yeah. Well, I wondered.
But then we find out what their fate was, so it was like, I don't want to get into that whole thing. So like,
it just, some of the storytelling vehicle, the storytelling vehicle that you're referring to early on in the film to give us that insight was never used again. Because I was thinking it was going to have a smattering of that throughout, like some, whatever to explain motivations, but instead they went entirely another direction. So I'm not even sure that they even needed that. They could have probably left that on the cutting room floor.
That's what I'm thinking. That's what I'm getting at, is like, it just didn't really pay off in any way.
Well, I guess
certain other things did, but that just didn't seem to.
I guess maybe there was going to be a little bit more of it with respect to Dracula's interaction with Renfield and the sort of motivation for Renfield choosing to be with him, and then the sort of guilt tripping nature and things like that. They may have written a few more deeper scenes of the movie, because when Dracula's in the apartment and sort of reveals all of that element to him, and Renfield starts to feel guilty and stuff like this. Maybe there was a few more layers of that involved as well. But
you're probably right. I'm sure Dracula had something to also do with their fate, and that may have played more into it. And they might have just cut some of those things out because they were trying to keep it a little bit more lighter nature. Because there is a light natureness. I don't know how to put it. Like, there is a lighter element to this film to where that's where I think it could have played as a PG-13 film, no problem.
I think you're right. And again, that absent some of the gore, well, and
the bad guy does use the F word, I think, pretty flippantly. But like outside of that, like,
wow, who enjoyed like the Mortal Kombat-esque death blow at the end?
Oh, I love every bit of this.
The X-ray cross section.
That was amazing, and that made me laugh so hard. And Ben Schwartz is great in this movie. Like, I mean, I thought, okay, where are they going with this character? And I kind of predicted it. So if it wasn't for the fact that I actually liked his character, I probably wouldn't have liked that element, because I'm like, okay, I can see where this is going now, like real quick. But like, again, it's hard to not spoil the movie because there's nothing to really truly spoil about it.
There is.
It's a pretty straightforward, kind of comedy horror, really.
Yeah. Tom, I'm so glad you went to see it, and I'm so glad you liked it, because, again, ladies and gents, this, I think I don't want to put words in your mouth, Tom, but I'll try to correct it from my own knowledge of the movie and what I think of it as well. I think Tom was a little bit too quick to throw out the word Morbius there as a comparison.
No, I'm not.
Morbius is unintentionally funny, right? They obviously did try to make a serious movie there. It's unintentionally hilariously bad. Renfield is intentionally a very good, funny horror movie.
But it's not going to be for everybody, though.
No, 100% not. But I think what could you compare it to, though? To
a lot of people have been comparing it to Deadpool, actually.
Do you think? I think it's a bit too many witticisms.
Kind of more so with the violence, the level of gore, and how the absurdity of it plays into the nature of the film. I think that's where they're getting it from, probably more so. And it does kind of have a superhero-y element to it, which maybe is what was worked against it. That might have been another thing that worked against it, is that it had that kind of basis for the storyline. Because they don't even really give you, this is one thing, like, I'm not going to spoil it for anybody. There is kind of one surprise you don't necessarily get out of the trailers, that when you get into the film, you realize, oh, so that's what he's doing. Because at first, he doesn't just jump into the superhero thing. It kind of gradually moves up into it. And that's what I love about the film, is it hits the ground running, but it also doesn't, it doesn't like pretend to, how do I put this?
It still develops stuff.
It does a very good job of developing where you are, why Renfield is doing what he's doing, where Dracula is in his position, where all these other people are in his life. Even the Awkwafina character, I didn't mind. I like understood the connections there. And I heard, what you had said before, like, yeah, I agree. You didn't really necessarily need it per se, but you also needed something to connect him to the modern world.
Exactly. There had to be a connective tissue there. And that as the through line, I didn't hate either, it's one of those things that you go like, And
they don't overdo the romance element either, right? Like, they don't force it, but at the same time, it's still there enough to where you could see these two awkward individuals getting together.
Yes. Yeah. I'm so glad you liked it. I had the best time with this movie. Would you watch it again?
Smile on my face oh yeah, hell yeah. Smile on my face from beginning to end. And this is going off what Culture
said. Look at Culture's face.
I can't believe that it's made no money, because like Culture, I ran into the issue, Nate. The first 2 theaters I checked that were actually reserve seating, I couldn't get a decent seat. Now, they weren't full, but they were fairly filled up, and I couldn't get a decent seat. So I finally went to a theater where it was first come, first serve, and got there early. But even that theater filled up pretty well. So I've heard. I don't understand where this movie's not making any money. It doesn't compute.
Well, I've heard that it's in America specifically, it's been put on senior lists and also child lists in terms of its ticket pricing level. So I don't know whether you had that.
Yeah.
So I think that's why. but that's dumb. This movie, I don't necessarily think it's a bad decision what they did releasing it when they have done, because you think like Evil Dead Rise, for instance, releases on Friday. Yeah, it's a pretty hard, heavy horror movie. That one is not played for laughs in any way, shape, or form. But that sort of gets people in the mood for a bit of horror and a bit of gore. And then you look at, this one on the flip side, counter programming. It's not necessarily a bad move, but I also think that they haven't actually marketed the film as well as they could have done. The trailer itself gives you the movie pretty well, but I've not seen the trailer that much. I've not seen them use the trailer as an advert. Have you? Because I've not seen it, and I've been doing search engines, so cookies would pick up on it. It would put it in front of me.
I'm curious.
And it's not.
I'm curious what they did spend on P&A for this, because I think you're right. I have not seen a ton of advertisements for it. In fact, when I posted the other night who saw Renfield, there was a good third of those posts underneath my post that were like, what is this? What are you talking about? What is that? Like, they had no idea what the hell it was. And now Paul Chatto and Script Doctor seem to believe that maybe Dracula's kind of out of the zeitgeist now. I don't know about that.
No, it's not. No, it's not.
I think the people that were interested in this and what kept them away was a small bit of that political shit we just talked about before. But the main thing I think that people were worried about was it being a movie that was going to nerf not only Dracula, but Nicolas Cage through doing that. And they weren't so sure about the Renfield character. And that's the thing is, I think people need to understand that that's the whole plot of the film is Renfield learning to become his own man, right? Like, so it's not about a cuck or anything like that or whatever other things that have been thrown at the movie. And I get it. I know where, culture said, people are seeing ghosts, and it's totally understandable. I have in many cases, but I've also been one of those that points out, like, sometimes it's like, the only thing that really makes this woke is like one stupid line, or anything remotely close to it. And I'm not even referring to Mario Brothers in this case. It's been other things.
Dracula and Renfield are not nerfed. They are both absolutely badass, like absolutely badass.
Oh yeah, they're the powers are put on display in this film are
you will see Renfield do things that you will have seen or have wanted to have seen in, say, the gore factor and brutality level of like The Boys on Amazon Prime. Like it is that gory and it is that brutal.
Somebody
at one point, and I said in my review. I said in my review at one point, Renfield inadvertently rips a guy's arms off and then begins using them as nunchucks to murder people with, and then throws them at two people, killing them because the ends of the arms, the bones, go through the bodies, these two people, and then impales them on a wall and a door. It is, and then he snatches some guy's entire face off.
Yeah, that was great.
Which was absolutely hilarious. So good. It's so funny. So no, like if you not to go too much into this, but if you want to have a really good fun time at the theater, you want to see Nicolas Cage, not actually play Nicolas Cage and actually act and do a good performance, because his Dracula he's really good in this.
Yeah.
Like I think he's actually really, really, really good.
It is one of his best performances, that's for sure.
Yeah, and he's having so much fun with it. You must watch this movie. I'd be so surprised if you're disappointed having watched this movie. I understand the complaints, but as a sweeping generalization, I think most people have a really good time with it.
I think if you've seen the trailers, unlike Cocaine Bear, it'll probably deliver more.
It's much funnier than Cocaine Bear. I like Cocaine Bear.
What were you going to say, Culture?
Nothing.
You liked Cocaine Bear more, and that's fair.
No. I like this movie. I like this movie better than Cocaine Bear. I've actually said that. I think I said that the other night when we were hanging out talking about it.
Okay.
But look, it's dumb fun. Okay, sorry, it's a dumb fun.
But it has a very sweet kind of message to it, and God, it's really weird talking about. You know what else it reminds me of? Kind of is like when you try to explain Revenge of the Nerds to somebody.
Oh yeah,
because Revenge of the Nerds is this R-rated sex comedy, but yet you can watch it with your grandma and not be embarrassed. Why? Because it has this sweet undertone to it. And that's what this has, right? Because Renfield is just a sweet guy and you feel sorry for him like you're supposed to. You empathize with him. You know the things that he's doing are wrong, and you kind of get, that he knows this, right? So like it's and he, the whole playing with, and I know that's another thing that might turn some people off, is the whole idea that, he has the sessions, right, with the group. Like, that's the heart of the movie. That's the heart of the movie. Like,
that's so funny as well. It's so good.
Shit.
It's so good.
It does have a good background. I mean, it plays on a lot of levels. It is a more complex vampire film than almost any that you've ever seen. Let's just put it that way, because it does play.
Well, that's what I love, is his relationship with all the characters, right? Like, each of these characters he has like a relationship with, not just the Aquafina character, right? Like, and just like I said, I don't want to spoil too much, because like I said, you start to realize once you get in the movie, like, the trailer presents you with an idea and you're like, okay, this is actually really getting into this idea and diving into it. And it's doing, and the reason I brought up Cocaine Bear is because they're not really comparable other than, comedy horror aspect of it. But what Cocaine Bear didn't do, what this film did do, was take the concept, run with it. And I feel like there was really no stone unturned, right? Like, there was really not much else. There was only like maybe one thing I would have done maybe a little differently. Like, I was like, okay, they kind of set up this idea that he eats bugs and smaller creatures, which is from the original movie, right? That was established as that Renfield, that was his, that's what he got from Master, is he got powers from that way. And what they should have done is like paid that off a little bit differently at the end. They do something with it, but not exactly what I was hoping they would do. And I don't want to spoil it for nobody, but it's like, because they kind of set it up to a point where it's like, taking away his power, but what would happen to you, reaching your maximum power. They didn't really show that per se ish. Yeah. They kind of did, but they kind of didn't. Like, you know what I mean? Like, there was still another level, I think, there that we didn't get to see. But no, other than that, there's not much I would do differently in the film.
Agreed.